All right, let's try it again. Go ahead.
Okay. Hey, everybody. Welcome to week 4 of the Fantasy Frenzy podcast. I'm Swami Rob. That's my buddy Jimmie Maverick on the other end for my perfect fantasy draft. How are you, dude?
I'm doing good, man. I had another good week, 4-2.
Okay. Yeah, you were 4-2 the week before, right?
I was 3-3 the week before. It was a tough week, but I gotta say, Monday Night Football is my kryptonite this year. I cannot get the win if it comes down to a Monday night game, and I need one player to do something for me. This past week, it was Tyler Boyd. I needed 14 PPR points from him to win. That's a number he has beaten in 2 out of his first 3 weeks. What does he do? He gets me 6. And so just more of the same. I swear 5 of my losses this year have come from a Monday Night Football game where a guy doesn't do what I need him to do to get the win.
I've been there, but, conversely, one of the weakest games of fantasy football I've ever been involved with, I was on the winning end of. I won a game 79-78. Okay, no points scored with either team, but I'm going into Monday night leading by 1 point, and he's still got Ross, the tight end for Cincinnati, who I don't think scored a single point. So I ended up being the benefactor of Cincinnati's offense stiffened, and somehow I win a 79-78 game.
Yeah, there was actually I guess the Monday night game did come through for me in one of my leagues because I was down by 1.5 points, and I had Juju Smith-Schuster. And boy, wouldn't you know it, he got 4 points. And so I actually did win on a Monday night game because of that. But boy, I just can't count on those Monday night players to come through for me. It's just it has just been bad. I'm very paranoid about having any players on Monday night right now because I know they're just not going to work for me. So what it was, it's Cleveland and San Francisco. I think I just clear all those players off my boards.
Yeah, it might not be a bad idea. Exactly. You know what? One mistake I made, and I guess it takes a certain savviness from fantasy players to be on top of this. But typically for me, nobody cares. I'll make this quick. But typically, my daughter and my wife go deal with Sunday school right around kickoff time. That's my window to go to the gym and get some of my workout done before. And so I usually miss the first quarter to a little of the first half of the early games. So I always miss last minute players getting benched for injuries or something.
Oh.
And so I didn't see Williams, the receiver for the Chargers, had been pulled at the last minute, wasn't playing, and I got 0 points out of that guy. And even 2 points would have been nice. He hasn't been great this year, but I got a big old goose egg for him. I hate it when that happens, man.
You know, I got to say, what I would recommend for you to do is get the Roto World app on your phone. Mm-hmm. And they do player updates. And just on Sunday morning before kickoff, at about 10:30 or so, just open up the app and it'll show all the players. You can see anybody that's been put to inactive last second and make your changes before kickoff starts. It's a pretty easy app to use. Very user-friendly and very easy to see who is not going to be playing that day.
All right, cool. I'll take a look at that. Now, before we get started on who you think should start, who you think should sit this week, there's a couple of names I want to toss out there and get your opinion on. Because last week, you were really big on me dumping Geronimo Allison.
Of course.
Who scored – he scored okay. He did okay. But with Devontae Adams hurt, suddenly that holding on to Allison might not be a bad idea.
Yeah, I mean, that's the nature of the game, right? And I would totally recommend picking up Geronimo Allison if you got him on the waiver, if he's available on the waivers, because I think he can have a good week this week. And Devontae Adams might be out for multiple weeks. So, definitely go get him.
All right. And then now there's a few quarterbacks that a lot of people are learning the names of. Your Kyle Allens, your Gardner Minshew's, your Mason Rudolph's. I'm starting to think that Minshew might not be a bad guy to run for 1 week when your main quarterback has a bye at the very least. He actually looks pretty decent.
Yeah, he's been good, man. He's multiple touchdowns each of his games so far, and he's been playing very well. So, yeah, I would Minshew is actually I got a bid on him right now in one of my leagues. I got a fab bid on him to get him instead of Kirk Cousins, who is being dumped off into the waiver wire.
Yeah, Kirk Cousins got to go.
Yeah.
There's another guy I put a claim in for on the waiver wire from Jacksonville, DJ Chark.
Yes.
I didn't end up with him, and
Oh.
so I can't confess to saying I understand how the waiver order works. But I thought I had a claim on Chark, and a guy who's undefeated in my league and doesn't need any help at all ended up getting him. How the hell does that work?
Well, what might have happened is your waiver priority might be randomized each week, which I hate that kind of setup. I have a setup like that, and inevitably you always have a guy who's like a top 3 team getting the top waiver priority that week, and that's
right.
That's not fair to the teams below him that are really struggling and really need the talent. So that's probably what happened there. Is he just had a higher waiver priority just because of the randomness of how that's done.
Yeah, I hate that myself. Hey, all right, we're 4 weeks in now, and there's some guys that are looking at 1-3, maybe even 0-4, that are obviously going to be looking to wheel and deal. So if you're looking to make some trades, I think now is about the time to start talking to people, right?
Yeah, and again, always, like, it's Wednesday, man. Check your waiver wire today, because you don't know who might have been dropped because of teams on bye. People need to fill their rosters. Obviously, Miami's one of the teams that got dropped, so no one's going to do anything about that. But who's the other team on bye this week? I don't recall. But anyway, now that we're in the bye weeks, you're going to find incredible players that are just sitting on the waiver wire. As an example, I just picked up Tevin Coleman off the waiver wire in one of my leagues, because he had just been sitting there. I mean, obviously he's been injured, but he's going to be coming back either this week or next week. Just a great pickup for my team. I just got him on my bench, and you will find those bargains during the course of the year, because people are going to need to fill those holes in their roster for those bye weeks. So,
Tevin Coleman kept my teams afloat the last couple of years as a last resort when he was with Atlanta. I wonder how much different his production is going to be now that he's playing with the Niners.
Well, the Niners have been pretty effective in their ground game so far, and that's a staple of Kyle Shanahan's offense. So I think once he's healthy, I think he's going to be involved in the offense again. And just the fact that I just picked him up off of waivers, he's a no-risk option. If he doesn't work out, I can drop him after a few weeks. It's no big deal. So,
all right, cool.
Yeah.
I like it. All right, now let's talk about your starts and your sits for week 4 coming up here.
Week 5,
week 5. Yeah, and let's see what your thoughts are. I might have a few too. I might interject while you're talking, but go ahead. Who you got this week?
All right, so let's start with quarterbacks, and I'm going to start with one who had a horrible game on Monday night. But it's Andy Dalton. He never plays well in prime time. He never plays well in the playoffs. And but guess what? He gets to play Arizona this week. And Arizona is the perfect bounce-back defense. They have given the second most fantasy points to quarterbacks this season. I anticipate a very strong bounce-back game. I would absolutely start him this week.
Yeah, if you've been starting him at all so far, I imagine he's a backup option for most people up till now anyway, right? But maybe worth a shot.
Yeah, I mean, he's been decent outside of what happened last week. But, I just, again, you got to go with the matchups. It's a great matchup. And I also anticipate there's going to be a strong bounce back for players like Tyler Boyd, Joe Mixon. I think they're all going to have good games this week. So
I think if you've got John Ross, look out. They just announced he's going to be out for a considerable period of time with injury, so he's done for a while. Exactly. Who else you got starting?
My next, another backup quarterback, Kyle Allen, who had a great game in week 3.
Minus all the fumbles.
Very much a defensive struggle game this past weekend. He didn't earn that many points. He didn't throw the ball that much. But now he gets a matchup at home against Jacksonville. Jacksonville is strong against the run, but they're weak against the pass. So I anticipate they are going to be chucking it a lot. DJ Moore, Curtis Samuel, and Greg Olsen are all going to be big beneficiaries as well.
Hey, don't tell anybody, but I got Curtis Samuel sitting on a waiver wire, so just keep this between me and you, but I'm going to get him while you're talking because I forgot about that.
Sounds good. Absolutely. Pick him up.
All right.
Definitely get him. Definitely.
All right. Who else you got?
Okay, so for my sits this week for the quarterback position, Baker Mayfield. He did have a great game last week. I was kind of surprised that he did so well against Baltimore. But now he's going to San Francisco on Monday night, so that is the Monday night game. I think it's going to be back to what he has been doing this year, which is struggling against this defense. I mean, San Francisco's defense is pretty good this year. So I would not start him this week. I just keep him on your bench. Maybe he can come through, but we need to see some consistency out of this guy. He's had one good week and 3 bad weeks so far this season. So I'm not ready to trust him yet.
I think Baker Mayfield's going to be that way his entire career. I think he's seriously, he'll be a lot of ups and a lot of downs, Let me ask you, I'm looking at Jameis Winston's week last week. Yes. And you remember when Bruce Arians came in, he's the quarterback whisperer. He's going to finally turn Jameis Winston into the quarterback he was meant to be. Week 1 was a freaking disaster, but since then he's played pretty well. So if Jameis Winston can do what he did to the Rams defense in LA, why can't he have another big week like that against the Saints defense this week? I'm thinking maybe he could.
I think he could too. I mean, it's so hard to say. I'm not sure I'm ready to trust Jameis Winston. And when you look at how the Saints were able to handle Dak Prescott last week, I think that it's going to be tougher than you would expect. And I'm not sure I would be able to start him this week because of that.
Yeah, all right. So are we moving to running backs now?
Well, let me okay, sure. I do have one more sit for the quarterbacks.
Go for it.
That is Dak Prescott once again, man. Even though he's at home this week, he's playing Green Bay. Green Bay's defense has been shut down mode on quarterbacks this year. So I'm really nervous about starting him at home. I think he'll be okay, but if you've got a better option, I would take it.
Yeah, I think the injury to Michael Gallup really hampers that Cowboys offense a little bit too, because when Gallup was out there, who, by the way, is going to be an emerging name, mark my words. But so you had Amari Cooper, you had Michael Gallup, you got Witten, you got Blake Jarwin, the kid from Ohio State's emerged. You got Randall Cobb out there. He was spreading out a little more, but then Gallup goes out, and now all of a sudden he's going to Cooper every time he gets the ball. He's gotten real predictable again,
Right,
so,
right.
I don't know.
Yeah, so – anyway, like I said, if you have a better option on your lineup, I would take it.
Okay.
But Dak will still be fine long term. But just this week, it's just a bad matchup.
All right, let's talk running backs. Yeah.
My start for running backs. First one is a guy who's dealing with an injury right now, so I need to make sure that he gets in a full participant as practice this week. But Marlon Mack. Is playing the Indianapolis Colts are playing the Chiefs this year. The Chiefs have been outstanding at giving up points to running backs. And so I do very much like what he could do. I mean, you look at what Kerryon Johnson did last week, what Mark Ingram did. Kansas City is a great team to run against. So Marlon Mack is a definite start for me there for this week.
Hey, how did Kerryon Johnson do last week? I didn't even see. Did
he got like 145 yards on the ground. He did really good.
Nice.
It was a good week for him.
I had Nick Chubb last week, man.
What's that?
I had Nick Chubb. 52 points out of Nick Chubb last week for me. But it didn't suck, man.
Very nice. He did very good. I'd start Nick Chubb this week. I mean,
heck yeah.
But let's see, another start, another one who I like, David Montgomery this week. His carries and his usage in the game plan has increased each of the first 4 weeks of the season. That is excellent. His efficiency has gone down, which is not good. But now that Mitch Trubisky is dealing with an injury, I think they're going to lean on the running game even more. That is going to open up the opportunities for Montgomery. And so I'm definitely excited about starting him this week.
Yeah, I think on a side note, I wouldn't go starting Chase Daniel, but I have a feeling that you're going to start hearing from people once Trubisky's back are going to be wanting Chase Daniel to stay out there on the field because Trubisky's been rough so far, man. So, yeah. All right, who else, man? Yeah. Who else you got?
Okay, so for my sits this week for running backs, Aaron Jones, man, he's playing in Dallas. It's a tough matchup. They held Alvin Kamara to under 100 yards last week. No touchdowns. I think it's going to be even worse for Aaron Jones, so I would not start him this week. I've definitely put him on your bench. Likewise, Josh Jacobs is playing against Chicago, and Chicago is just their defense is just insane how good it is. They completely shut down Dalvin Cook last week. I do not want any part of that, so I would bench both those guys.
I'm going to throw one at you, too, that I think you might want to think about starting if you're kind of in a last-ditch situation. But I have a feeling, based on what Leonard Fournette did last week, Austin Eckler might not be bad to look at against the Denver defense. Bradley Chubb's out. Von Miller's disgruntled. Fournette ate their lunch last week, so I don't see why that couldn't happen another week. And isn't it ironic how Melvin Gordon holds out to the last minute, gets out there and pulls a hammy right off the bat? Did you notice that? See what happens when you hold out? So I bet you Austin Eckler has a pretty good week.
He's been great so far, man. He has been outstanding, and I'm so disappointed. He got sniped in every single draft I was in before I could get him. And so, and those people that did it, their teams are doing very well right now. Although, once Melvin Gordon is healthy and back, Eckler, his value is going to go down substantially, but he's still going to be at least a flex option each week. So he still has value.
Yeah. All right.
But, okay, so let's move on to wide receivers. My starts for this week, another one who's had a very tough season so far, has not done well at all, Adam Thielen. But now they are going into the New York Giants. They're playing the New York Giants this week. The Giants have given up the third most points to wide receivers. If there was ever a game that Kirk Cousins and Adam Thielen could redeem themselves, it's going to be this game against the Giants. And so
Thank God, Adam Thielen is my WR1 in both my leagues. And I don't know if you saw this or not, but Thielen was belly aching about Kirk Cousins' play after the game. And so Kirk Cousins apologized to not getting to Thielen enough. So Diggs is not going to get many balls this week because Kirk Cousins is going to go out of his way to hit Adam Thielen. I hope he does, because Thielen's been disappointing this year for me. Really.
Well, it's hard to get any production when your quarterback's only throwing the ball like 15 or 20 times a game.
Right.
It's not enough volume there to support a wide receiver. And so it wouldn't be nice to see Kirk Cousins throw the ball 30 times, 35 times this week. He certainly can against this offense. So we'll see what happens though. But if Thielen can't do it this week, man, I would look to trade or just drop him because he's not going to have any fantasy value for you.
Man, I'd hate to drop him because my receiving cores on both my teams are really bad. They're horrible. But I keep thinking, well, Thielen will break out of it. He'll break out of it. And him and Brandon Cooks are both off to really slow starts.
Yeah, it's been rough outside of Dalvin Cook on that offense. So another start this week. Well, we were talking about Geronimo Allison, but Marquez Valdez-Scantling, again, another great high upside play this week with Devontae Adams being out. And they are he is worth at least flex value. So I would absolutely start him this week.
Okay, speaking of which, let me just insert a personal note. Sony Michel has been my flex option for 4 straight weeks, and while only scoring 9, 10, 11 points, I've got Allison on the bench. I'm thinking this is my week to finally take Michel out of the flex spot and put Geronimo Allison in my flex. Don't you think it's the right time?
That's a tough one. The New England has such a great matchup this week in Washington. I'd be inclined to keep Sony Michel in there.
All right.
Just because I think the potential for a touchdown is extremely high.
Of course, Rex Burkhead or James White will get it, but yeah, there it is.
That's true. Boy, between those two, that is a tough choice. I would flip a coin, man.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm going to end up doing, man. Yeah, good call.
So my sits for this week for the wide receivers are the Rams receivers this week, man. They're going up to Seattle, Thursday night game on a short week. Goff has been really struggling on the road this year. I just think it is bad news for the entire receiver core. And so if you've got better options that you can put in there, I would do it. But it's hard for me to trust any of those guys, Kupp, Woods, or Cooks, this week in that kind of a situation.
Who's the other guy they've got? They've got that other guy that always ends up scoring a touchdown when I need Woods or Cooks to score. I'm brain farting his name right now. He's their fourth guy. 81, I'm wanting to say. He's a bigger dude.
Is it Richardson? Is it
maybe? I can't remember now, but they've got another guy that they always hit when you need Woods or Cooks to score the most. They always find this guy off the bench. I'm like, not that guy. You know?
I hate that. That's like my least favorite thing in football anymore is when some guy who I don't even know his name scores a touchdown. I'm like, who is this guy? Why is he?
And there's a lot of those guys during the early games last week too. A bunch of them. So, yeah.
All right, so let's move on to tight end. So my start of the week for tight end, man, Tyler Eifert of the Cincinnati Bengals.
Haven't heard that name in a while.
I know, and Arizona is the gift that keeps on giving to tight end production. Again, last week, Will Dissly just tore it up, 2 touchdowns. Just killed it. Eifert is a absolute must start for me. If you got him, I'd look on the waiver wire. He might just be sitting there. There's nobody rostering Eifert.
He's on every waiver wire there is because he's been hurt for so long. I bet he's owned by less than 20% of fantasy owners right now.
Probably is, but this is the week to pick him up and play him, man. It's a perfect situation, and he should definitely be good this week. And my sit for the tight end this week would be Delaney Walker. Marcus Mariota and Delaney Walker obviously have a very strong connection, but that does not exist with Mariota out. So he's got a tough matchup. He's playing in Buffalo. I don't know if he's in Buffalo, but they're playing Buffalo this week. And they completely stifled New England's offense last week. So I don't want, really any Titans player, man. I would just try to sit them this week. They're not going to do much.
Yeah, I think you're right. All right, so then who's your sit tight end?
That is my sit, Delaney Walker.
Oh, yes. Sorry, I missed that. I thought I was saying, okay, cool. Well, that's all pretty good stuff then, man. I can't, as usual, my app is not oh, here we go. Okay, so we're looking for Tyler Eifert.
Yes.
Oh, the only problem is I got Will Dissly in this league. I'm going to keep him. I like the way he's playing. I'll take a look at it later this week. That's actually a pretty interesting call. I like the Eifert call. That's pretty good.
Yeah. I think, again, Arizona's been so good to tight ends this year. You got to take advantage of it every time you can. And I'm like I said, Andy Dalton, the whole offense is going to rebound this week. They're going to be much better than they were on Monday night. So
yeah,
just as long as Dalton isn't playing in a primetime game at night or the playoffs, he's going to be pretty good. So
I think you're right. I've been picking an upset each week for all you people that are doing loser pools, and I'll be damned if I can figure out one that I really like here. I might say it wouldn't surprise me one bit just when you've written off the Atlanta Falcons for them to go into Houston and win a game, but I don't have any confidence in the Falcons at all.
But I don't have much confidence in Houston either. They haven't been able to do anything this season.
Yeah, right. I know. They've been real weird, too, kind of schizophrenic. So if I got to call an upset this week, I'm going to say Tennessee holds off Buffalo in Tennessee.
Ooh, you think so, huh?
I don't know if I think so or not, but I'm just picking one. So
I mean, the fact that Josh Allen is out, he's dealing with concussion protocol. He's probably not going to play. That's probably not a bad choice. But, there's going to be a complete dearth of fantasy production this week on that game. I mean, those neither of those teams with their quarterbacks being out and they're already being marginal offenses at best. You're going to look at a defensive struggle, a 9-6 game, something like that, 9-7.
Yeah.
It's going to
I love your verbiage, dude. A complete dearth of fantasy production. That's like a album title. That's awesome, man. That's great. All right, cool, man. Well, then we'll check in with you again this time next week, and solid picks, and hope your teams do good. If I end up over 500 after an 0-2 start with both teams, I'll be pretty stoked.
Yeah, an 0-2 start is not insurmountable. You can still do well as long as you continue to work the waiver wire, start trading, try to upgrade your team through trades. You just got to work at it every week. It's just managing your team. What I like to say is success in fantasy football. 50% of it is the draft, but 30% of it is managing your team. And then, of course, 20% is good old-fashioned luck, just not getting the injury bug on your team and having players that come through and exceed their expectations. That's what success in fantasy is all about. But you got to manage the team each week. You got to continuously strive to improve that team every single week in order to get yourself to that championship game.
Yeah, I like it. All right, man. Well, then good luck this week, and we'll talk to you next Wednesday.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Swami. It's been great, and I will talk to you soon.
Okay.